They didn't see it in him, not at first. He wasn't the prodigy point guard who could break ankles with a crossover, nor the towering center scouts whispered about before he could even shave. He was somewhere in between, too tall to be called a guard, too short to dominate the paint. But Coach Reynolds noticed something early, a strange kind of stubbornness in the way the boy refused to quit drills even when the gym lights buzzed and everyone else had gone home. There was one night, years ago, in a dusty middle school gym. The team's star forward twisted his ankle in warm-ups, and Coach pointed at him. This kid who had never played the position, telling him to take the spot. He didn't score 20 points or drain a game winner. Instead, he guarded the other team's top scorer into silence, hustled for rebounds he had no business getting, and made passes nobody remembered but everyone benefited from. The box score barely mentioned him, but in the locker room, Coach clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder and said, "You're the glue." From then on, the label stuck. Glue guy. It wasn't glamorous, and it didn't sell tickets, but it meant something to him, maybe more than it should have. He began to see himself differently, comparing his own quiet versatility to the single-minded brilliance of his teammates. The sharpshooter had his three-ball. The big man had his shot blocking. He had everything else. Not the best at any one thing, but good enough at all of them. It was a blessing and a burden, a truth he carried like an invisible jersey number. And as the seasons changed, that identity, born in a forgotten middle school game, would shape everything that followed. The gym was deafening that Friday night, the kind of noise that made the backboard tremble. From the stands, all eyes were on one player, the opposing team's top scorer, a wiry guard who had been torching defenses all season. But down on the court, Coach Bennett's eyes were on someone else. "Number 14, you've got him all night," the coach muttered almost casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world to hand a junior the toughest defensive assignment in the state. From the opening tip, it was chaos, screens, cuts, fakes, but number 14 shadowed the star like a ghost, denying passing lanes, bumping him off rhythm, and contesting every shot. He crashed the boards against bigger forwards, set bone-rattling screens for his own scorers, and dove after loose balls that no one else bothered to chase. By the end of the game, the box score said he had just 4 points. The crowd didn't chant his name. The local paper's write-up didn't mention him once. But in the locker room, his teammates slapped him on the back. "You shut him down, man," one said. Coach simply nodded, a small smile betraying how much he valued the effort. It was a strange kind of spotlight, one that didn't shine on you but on the people you made better. He lived in that space, the gap between recognition and respect. The fans might never know his name, but inside that locker room, he was irreplaceable. And as the season wore on, he would learn that this invisible work, the unglamorous grind, wasn't just a role. It was becoming his identity. By the time the buzzer sounded, his jersey was drenched and his legs felt like lead. The final possession had been brutal. Boxing out a power forward built like a refrigerator one moment, then sprinting to the arc to contest a sharpshooter the next. It hadn't started that way. When he first made the leap to college ball, and later the G League, the game looked familiar. Same court, same hoops. But the reality was different. Faster, heavier. Every screen rattled his ribs. Every cut was sharper. The playbook wasn't just a list of options anymore. It was a script, down to the exact foot he was supposed to plant on. Creativity, that was for the stars. One night in particular told the whole story. First quarter, he was glued to a lightning-quick point guard, chasing him through mazes of screens. Second quarter, he switched onto a shooting guard who needed only an inch of daylight to fire. By the fourth, the matchup changed again. A bruising power forward who lived under the rim. His job was to guard them all. The stat sheet would show nothing spectacular, no 30-point explosion, no viral dunk. But it wouldn't mention the exhaustion that made his legs feel like cinder blocks when the game was on the line. The stars on his team barely noticed, not because they didn't respect him, but because his role was to make their lives easier without getting in their way. He was the insurance policy, the invisible gear in a high-speed machine. And as the season wore on, he started to wonder, how long could a body last when it was asked to be 3 players in one every single night? The first possession of the night set the tone. Jason Tatum caught the ball on the wing, triple threat stance, eyes scanning. Across from him, number 23 crouched low, studying every twitch of the shoulders, every fake. He'd watched hours of film for this, memorizing Tatum's jab steps, the spots he favored, the way he liked to set up that step-back 3. The Celtics ran a high pick to shake him loose. He fought through it like it was the last possession of the finals. The shot clanged off the rim. The scoreboard didn't credit him with anything but a contested, but the bench noticed. That was the life of a versatile small forward at his peak. Every game was a new puzzle. Jimmy Butler's brute force one night, Brandon Ingram's silky mid-range the next. There was no easing in, just a nightly gauntlet where mistakes weren't allowed. If a defense collapsed, even if the breakdown started 2 rotations away, the cameras always seemed to catch him in frame. The whispers followed. He's getting cooked. That was the burden. Being the visible defender meant being the visible scapegoat. Compared to the point guard running plays or the center setting the tone inside, his workload was both invisible and heavier. He chased guards full speed, then bodied up forwards in the paint, then sprinted the floor in transition. The miles on his legs didn't show in the box score, but his body kept the receipts. Coaches called him their insurance policy. When the system cracked, he was the patch. When the star needed a breather, he took the toughest assignment. In their eyes, he was indispensable, just not the kind of indispensable that made highlight reels or shoe deals. And as the season wore on, the question began to creep in. How many more nights like this could his body take before the insurance policy finally wore out? It hit him halfway through practice. A simple closeout drill, he'd done it thousands of times. But when he planted and jumped, the lift wasn't there. Not like it used to be. The ball still brushed his fingertips, but it wasn't enough to change the shot. Off the court, the grind had become its own full-time job. Flights at 2 a.m., waking up in yet another hotel room with blackout curtains, slipping into a cold tub before breakfast just to loosen his knees. Afternoons were no longer for extra reps, but for therapy bands, massage tables, and the slow, methodical work of keeping his body functional. Then came the new kid, 6'9", long arms, quick first step. The kind of athlete front offices drool over. He wasn't a threat, not officially, but every time the rookie dunked in warm-ups, it felt like a clock ticking in the background. He adjusted his game, the way veterans do. No more reckless drives into traffic. No more chasing every rebound like his life depended on it. The slasher became a shooter, living beyond the arc, conserving energy in ways the stat sheet would never show. Still, the truth lingered in the back of his mind. You can't outshoot time. And as he watched the rookie laugh on the sideline, bouncing on fresh legs, he knew, whether it happened this season or the next, there would be a day when the jersey still fit, but the role didn't. The crowd roared as the ball ricocheted off the backboard, 1 second left, a playoff game on the line. He rose, met it midair, and swatted it into the stands. The arena shook. His teammates mobbed him, the coach grinning ear to ear. And yet, by morning, the highlight reels framed it as the block that sealed the win, without ever mentioning his name. That was the way it had always been. Other players, guys he'd guarded, screened for, set up, had their breakout moments, their playoff game winners, their magazine covers. Those snapshots kept them alive in the public memory. He had no such keepsake, just the quiet respect of those inside the locker room. In the years that followed, the game slowed for him, not because his mind had dulled, but because his body had. He could still read a play 2 steps ahead, but the steps to get there took longer. He thought about life beyond the court and saw the same pattern everywhere. Offices, construction sites, classrooms. The people who made the whole thing work were rarely the ones in the photo, so when rookies asked him how to survive in the league without star power, he told them the truth. You won't get the headlines, you won't trend, but you'll matter if you can do the jobs nobody else wants, night after night. His career ended much as it began, quietly. No farewell tour, no standing ovation. But in the back of his mind, a question lingered. What if that one block had gone viral? Would it have changed his legacy? Or just distracted from the truth of who he'd always been? In the end, his story was never about headlines, highlight reels, or signature sneakers. It was about the work that never made the box score. The film sessions where he studied every jab step of a superstar. The nights his knees burned from chasing guards and battling bigs in the same game. The moments when the crowd roared, not for him, but because of him. He was the piece that made the machine run. Versatile, reliable, unshakable. Coaches called him the glue. Teammates trusted him with everything that mattered, and opponents knew they'd have to earn every inch. The fans? They might not remember his name, but they remembered the wins. In modern basketball, the spotlight isn't built for players like him. The league rewards the spectacular. He specialized in the necessary. But that's the thing. Championships aren't built on spectacle alone. They're built on the hands that box out, the feet that rotate, the bodies that take the hit so someone else can take the shot. So, when his jersey was finally folded away for the last time, there was no farewell tour, no grand ceremony. Just the quiet truth that every star he'd ever played alongside already knew. Without him, the game would have been harder. Without him, the wins would have been fewer, and maybe that was the legacy all along.